Hiya, Gers family. What a time it is to be following Rangers right now because the season has taken another turn and you can feel the tension building around Ibrox with every single match. There is a real sense that something is shifting inside the club and the supporters are not blind to it. Even when the results look comfortable on paper, the conversations around the team have been getting louder, sharper, and much more demanding. The latest performance brought that feeling straight to the surface because while the scoreline said everything was under control, the mood among the fans told a very different story. That 3-0 victory over Kilmarnock should have been all about confidence, momentum, and positivity, but instead it opened up another wave of debate that refuses to go away. There was plenty to like in the way Rangers moved the ball, controlled the tempo, and suffocated the opposition for long spells. Yet one area of the pitch has once again become the center of attention, and it is the defensive unit that everyone keeps coming back to. Supporters are starting to feel uneasy, not because the team cannot dominate games, but because there is a growing belief that the back line does not feel as secure as it should at this level. One particular defender has found himself under the brightest spotlight lately, and it is not because of a lack of effort or technical ability. On the contrary, with the ball at his feet, he looks calm, composed, and very comfortable playing out from the back. Against Kilmarnock, he was heavily involved in the build-up and completed more passes than anyone else on the pitch, which tells you just how involved he was in Rangers' overall control of the match. But the frustration from the stands does not come from what he does going forward with the ball. It comes from what happens when Rangers have to defend quickly, react under pressure, and make split-second decisions. Fans have been pointing out the same issues for weeks now. Positioning that feels slightly off, reactions that look a split-second too slow, and moments where simple defensive decisions become unnecessarily complicated. Against weaker opposition, Rangers can sometimes get away with those moments, but supporters know that in bigger matches, those mistakes are the ones that get punished. That is what has been feeding this growing sense of vulnerability at the back, and it is no longer a quiet concern whispered among a few fans. It has now turned into a loud debate that dominates conversations after matches. The situation is made even more complicated by the lack of alternatives available to the manager. Injuries have stripped away depth in that area, and that reality cannot be ignored. With key defenders sidelined until after the turn of the year, the options are painfully limited, and that has effectively turned this player into an automatic starter, whether he is in sparkling form or not. It is not just about individual performances anymore. It is about the structure and stability of the entire defensive line. And when one piece feels uncertain, the whole system starts to wobble slightly. Supporters have made their feelings crystal clear across social media, and the tone has shifted from patience to outright frustration. Some fans have been brutally honest, questioning whether this experiment in the heart of defense is really working at the level Rangers demand. Others have gone even further, describing his defensive work as careless and naive, and that type of reaction shows just how thin the patience has become. This is not a case of supporters enjoying a win and nitpicking for fun. This is a fan base that senses danger before it actually becomes a disaster. And yet there is another layer to this story that makes it even more fascinating. Inside the club, there is a young defender who many supporters have not seen anywhere near enough of this season, a player who showed genuine promise previously, a player who understands the physical demands and the unique tempo of Scottish football, and a player who many believe could offer something different in terms of natural defensive instincts. Despite all of that, he remains stuck on the bench, watching as the debate around the current centre-back pairing grows louder with every passing week. That decision from the manager has raised eyebrows. Some understand that trust in young players has to be earned, especially at a club where the pressure is relentless and mistakes are magnified tenfold. But others look at the repeated defensive lapses and wonder how much worse it could really be if the youngster was given his chance. When experienced options are struggling for consistency, the argument naturally shifts toward trying something fresh, something hungry, something that might bring a different kind of energy into the back line. Right now, Rangers are winning games, and that fact matters. Points are being collected, momentum is being built, confidence across the midfield and forward areas is clearly improving, but under the surface there is this constant rumble of concern about what happens when Rangers come up against sharper, faster, more ruthless opponents. Clean sheets matter, but how they are achieved matters too. And supporters want to feel calm when the opposition starts pushing forward late in a match. The pressure on the manager is subtle but real. It is not about panic and it is not about crisis, but it is about choices. Choices that could define the stability of this side for the rest of the campaign. With injuries not easing up anytime soon and the fixture list refusing to slow down, this situation is not going to disappear on its own. Every match becomes another test, another audition, another moment where the defensive line is quietly being judged by thousands of watching eyes. As things stand, Rangers are doing what they must in terms of results, but the conversation around the heart of the defense is only growing louder, and if the current pattern of performances continues, the manager may soon find himself backed into a corner where change is no longer optional, but necessary whether he likes it or not. The tension around Rangers does not stop with what is happening at the back, because away from the pitch, another situation isn't quietly becoming just as serious, and it centers around one of the club's brightest young midfield talents. There is a real sense of urgency behind the scenes now, as the clock keeps ticking and the window of control over his future starts to narrow with every passing week. Inside the club, there has been hope, belief, and quiet confidence that a new deal could be sorted. But the reality is starting to look far more complicated than many first expected. This is not just about contracts and paperwork. This is about the direction of the club and how strongly Rangers can hold on to players that are seen as the future of the team. The young midfielder has long been viewed as a special talent in the training ground, someone who plays the game with maturity beyond his age and understands the demands of the badge he wears. From the moment he arrived, there were those inside the club who felt Rangers had secured something very valuable, someone who could be built around over the coming years. Now, however, that sense of security is being challenged as the final stretch of his current deal begins to approach. Other clubs have begun to circle, and that attention is no longer quiet or distant. It is very real, very active, and very hard to ignore. Rangers know exactly how these situations can unfold, and the fear is not imagined. The fear is based on experience, on history, and on watching other talented youngsters drift away when hesitation crept into negotiations. The interest coming from across the border has added a new layer of pressure to the entire situation. Clubs down south are watching closely, tracking every appearance, every training session report, every hint of progress. They know that time is on their side. They know that if Rangers do not act swiftly and decisively, the balance of power slowly shifts towards the player. That is simply the modern reality of football at this level, and Rangers are feeling that weight now more than ever. What makes it even more complex is the mindset of the player himself. At this stage of his career, development matters more than anything. Minutes on the pitch, trust from the management, a clear pathway from prospect to regular starter. These are the factors that will shape his decision, not just promises made in closed rooms. Rangers must convince him that Ibrox is the place where he can truly grow, not just sit and wait. That is the battle unfolding quietly, day by day, as the seasons move on and the pressure builds. If there is no breakthrough soon, the situation reaches a dangerous phase when a player gets closer to that point where he can start thinking about his future without Rangers being in full control. The dynamic changes completely. Conversations become more careful. Offers from elsewhere become more tempting. And suddenly, a club finds itself chasing rather than leading. That is the scenario Rangers are desperate to avoid, because losing a player of this quality without receiving a fee would cut deep, not only financially but emotionally, for a support that takes pride in homegrown development. Around the training ground, there is still belief. There is still a feeling that things can be turned around, but belief without action is not enough in football. The longer the standstill continues, the louder the questions become. Supporters are starting to sense this uncertainty, and it adds another layer to the atmosphere around the club. It is no longer just about what happens during the 90 minutes on a Saturday. It is about the long-term health of the squad and whether Rangers can protect their own future. At the same time, the team cannot afford to lose focus on the pitch. Performances are improving in key areas. There is more fluidity in midfield, more confidence in the wide areas, and a sharper edge in front of goal. That balance is fragile. Too much noise off the pitch can easily bleed into performances on it. The challenge for Rangers now is to manage both worlds at once, to keep winning football matches while also making strong, clear decisions about the players who could define the next chapter of the club's story. The coming months are set to be crucial, not because of any single match, but because of what they represent. They represent direction, they represent ambition, they represent whether Rangers can stand firm when bigger, wealthier clubs begin to push and test their resolve. This situation with the young midfielder is not an isolated problem. It is a reflection of where Rangers sit in the modern football landscape and how fiercely they must fight to protect their identity. And as January edges closer, the pressure does not ease, it tightens. Every week that passes without clarity adds another layer of tension. Every strong performance from the youngster invites more attention from elsewhere. Every moment of silence in negotiations makes the fan base a little more anxious. Inside Ibrox, the awareness is there. The understanding is there. What remains to be seen is whether the action will match the urgency of the situation, because if it does not, Rangers could find themselves in a very painful position, watching another prized asset edge closer to a future that no longer includes them. The concern stretches far beyond the pitch and into the way the club handles its young talent on a day-to-day basis. Because every single decision made right now could shape what Rangers become over the next few seasons. When a promising player starts to feel his space is limited, even when he is training well and showing clear development, that is when confidence begins to be tested. At a club the size of Rangers, where the pressure to deliver results never disappears. Finding the balance between developing youth and maintaining the highest standards is never easy, but this is exactly the area where the club will be judged. Inside the dressing room, the subject tends to surface even when nobody speaks about it openly. Players feel the atmosphere, they sense the tension, and they know when a teammate's future is sitting on a knife edge. That kind of situation can pull a squad closer together, creating a mentality of protection and focus, but it can also quietly plant seeds of doubt about their own individual paths. That is why the role of the technical leadership is so important right now, to keep the group tight, clear-minded, and united, even while conversations behind the scenes continue to heat up. Out on the pitch, every match begins to carry extra weight, because it is no longer just about collecting points, it is about proving a project. Every pass, every challenge, every decision made under pressure now carries the responsibility of showing that Rangers remain a powerful destination for players who want to grow and push their careers forward. And it is within this atmosphere of maximum demand that the club moves forward, needing to turn uncertainty into authority, anxiety into clarity, and doubt into answers that can only be delivered through performances and courage shown across the full span of the pitch. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to get all the exclusive news about Rangers FC. Don't overlook any details about your beloved team. It's crucial for Rangers FC fans. Rangers Park has been fair buzzing the last couple of days, with a rumour weaving its way through Govan like a cold wind off the Clyde. Word is that manager Danny Röhl has fallen out in spectacular fashion with one of his first-choice lads, and folk close to the training grounds swear the bust-up was as fierce as anything the club's seen in years. Those who ken Röhl's style say he's usually calm, measured, the sort who keeps his cards tight to his chest. But this time, by all accounts, the German gaffer lost his temper entirely, leaving players and staff staring at their boots while the air crackled. The row is said to have sparked during a closed-door session where tensions had apparently been brewing. One source whispered that the player in question answered back once too often, while another insisted it went far beyond a simple disagreement about tactics. Whatever the truth, or the phrase that's leaked out, "He's no coming back," has set supporters arguing from Ibrox to Inverness. Is this Röhl laying down his authority, or has he pushed away a key figure at a moment the squad can afford more drama? Inside the dressing room, the mood is said to be uneasy. A few of the seniors are reportedly trying to calm the waters, but others are said to be quietly backing the manager, reckoning the lad stepped over a line only Röhl himself knows. The situation's grown legs, as they say, with every whispered retelling painting. The clash, a wee bit sharper, a touch angrier, a shade more final. Yet no official word has come from the club, leaving fans refreshing their phones and firing off theories faster than a late-window transfer rumour. For now, the burble around Ibrox is that Röhl's made up his mind and that the player, once a nailed-on starter, might already be looking at the door. Whether this is a storm that blows over or the start of something bigger, the faithful will need to keep their lugs open. In Glasgow, nothing stays quiet for long, especially when the manager himself is said to have uttered the line every fan's now repeating, "He'll no be back. Greetings." Fans, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, as it's greatly appreciated by Rangers FC. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments section below. Until the next video, stay tuned.